and welcome to the video you just clicked on. The only extensive analysis of Despicable Me on YouTube, I think. I mean, pretty much every other big animated movie franchise has had someone delve into it in some way or another on here, but not Despicable Me, apparently. Like, I don't know if there was some big agreement among YouTubers to not talk about, well, yeah, the movies that have been memed into oblivion by mums who, ironically, to my knowledge, don't know what memes are. Like, I can guarantee if I ever show my mom a meme, her exact response will be, I just don't understand what a meme is, Seamus. And you know what? For anyone else who might potentially be in that boat, I'm finally going to explain it to you today with my top 10 Minion memes. It takes skill to trip over flat surfaces. It's funny because he's on his face. Who else does this? Wets toothbrush, puts toothpaste on, wets toothbrush again, and starts brushing teeth. I brush my teeth as well. We are best friends. Always remember, if you fall, I'll pick you up. After I finish laughing, I hope you fell painfully. I'm on a light diet. I eat by daylight, moonlight, and sometimes by refrigerator light. Don't give up on your dreams. Give up on your husband instead. What? It's been written with a different font. As someone's added that in. The moment you're laughing so hard and try to stop, but then you look back at the person and stop. Oh, so true. Crazy pills take one every hour to prevent the urge of choking the hell out of someone who desperately deserves it. Who's coming up with the coffee? The most important meal of the day, am I right? Some people just need a hug around the neck with a... Seriously, who came up with this? Like, if you ever pushed a door that said pull. You know you've done that, you gotta like the video now. Come on, I don't make the rules, you gotta like the video. So, yeah, anyway, that's it for top 10 Minion memes. And I'm sorry you had to sit through that prolonged and not very funny skit, but that's probably as bad as it's gonna get with this channel. Can't make any guarantees, but you should subscribe because there's a chance it might get better from here. And you should actually be apologizing to me because I had to sit through 4 Despicable Me movies, or more specifically, 3 Despicable Me movies and a Minions spin-off that's soon to have its own sequel. Some might say that's too many movies. I watched all 4, and you're probably wondering, how, Seamus? Here in the UK, only 2 of the movies are available on Netflix. And that's where you're in luck, because today's video is sponsored by none other than Surfshark, who are here to guarantee your instant online safety on an unlimited number of devices by encrypting your personal information and sending you alerts anytime your email address or password is compromised using their hacklock system. What's that got anything to do with watching Despicable Me on Netflix? This has got everything to do with watching Despicable Me on Netflix. Because using Surfshark, you can change your location through a click of a button, and then for a country like Belgium, you can watch all the movies right there. And it hasn't just come in handy for this video. If you can cast your minds back to my last video on Tangled the series, I've had loads of people messaging me, how did you watch it all? Since here in the UK, Disney Plus only has season 1 available for some reason. No idea why, but that was a bit of a problem for me when trying to make a video on it. So how did I watch the rest of it? By changing my location to America using Surfshark. That's 2 videos in a row where subs are coming clutch for me. And if that sounds of any interest to you, make sure to use my code Gorman, Gorman, for a massive 83% off, plus an extra 3 months for free. So there's literally no risk. Check it out in the link in the description down below. It'd help out the channel a lot. And with the movies watched, I'm ready to analyze it in the only way I know how. By comparing them to Toy Story. Okay, not really, but I do wonder if the aliens from Toy Story had been oversaturated in the same way as the Minions, would the Toy Story franchise be as beloved as it is now? I mean, it might even sound blasphemous to say, and for the record, I don't think anyone's arguing that the Despicable Me movies are better than the Toy Story movies in any way, like, it's not even close. But like, they are kind of the same character trope, being a massive group of comic relief side characters. And I put comic relief in inverted commas because they don't really say that much. I mean, repeating the claw over and over again is funny to me in the context of the movie, and significantly more than whatever, I don't know, this is. But imagine if instead of a Toy Story 3, they bumped out an Aliens spin-off in 2010. That might have been genuinely bad, and then my Toy Story obsession would have remained within my childhood. And just in general, I think Pixar's run very differently to Illumination, where they focus on making the story good primarily, and then whatever commercial success comes with it is a bonus, except for the Cars sequels. And I think this is pretty transparent in Toy Story 4, where the aliens are hardly even in it. And I think it's because the aliens aren't necessary to the story, and their comic relief wouldn't really fit in there. Meanwhile, Illumination, well, they know what they are. And I guess ultimately they could never have known what the Minions were going to become. I think. Maybe they had some idea. I mean, they're in the title card for the first Illumination film! With that said, on the whole, I think the first Despicable Me is the best one. Like, if you try and forget about all that and just look at it as a new animation studio's first movie, it's pretty fun, all things considered. The animation quality's pretty good. I mean, if there's one thing I'm willing to give Illumination credit for, it's that. It's not groundbreaking in any way, but for 2010, this was probably some of the best 3D animation to date. I think the character designs work quite well. Like, for example, Gru has very small legs with a large torso, revealing to us subconsciously that he's a top-heavy character, implying there's some sort of personality imbalance there, meaning there's more than meets the eye with him. Or Agnes having those disproportionately large eyes, symbolizing that oblivious optimism and enthusiasm for life. And just in general, giving the characters a more cartoony style helps pull us out of the real world and throw us into the movie, where the stakes of life and death that we face are not nearly as important. Pretty much all the characters are indestructible and will not die no matter what happens in this movie. And honestly, I think the world they create is really fun. Matter of fact, another thing I'm willing to give Illumination credit for is world building. I've watched most of their films today, and I almost always get immersed into the environment, even if the story's bad and doesn't hold up to criticism, which this film in its own right doesn't really either. There's such a childish nature to the main aspects of the story, to do these supervillains trying to outdo each other and plan out the next big crime, all the over-the-top weaponry. And then the concept of shrinking down and stealing the moon is just so dumb from a scientific standpoint that it feels almost childlike how that was thought up, making it in a kind of cool way feel like they don't really care what the critics and people in general think of the film, If it's stupid and you own it's stupid, it's still stupid, but not as stupid. Anyway, there isn't really much to say about the original Despicable Me. As much as I'm sure people aren't willing to admit it, there's a lot of good stuff in there, and then also a whole load of bad stuff. I mean, I can't imagine the Minions are funny to anyone over the age of 6. I'd like to give the benefit of the doubt that they're absolute comic gold to kids, but the way they speak is the most frustrating thing to ever happen in any movie ever. But I also don't think they're completely unbearable in this movie. Like, as I said, they could never have foreseen the commercial success they were going to achieve, so out of all the Despicable Me movies, this one deals with them best by giving them a minimal part. Like, the story is pretty much entirely focused around Gru's character arc and his relationship with the orphans, and they just kind of come into play for the weird side bits that can definitely make the movie overwhelmingly childish and therefore less enjoyable compared to animated movies that might be considered classics or fun for all the family, but I think it balances itself out in the end. For every character gets hurt funny or toilet joke that's effortlessly been slung in there, there's a genuinely funny moment. And, well, just in general, any movie that can make me remember a toilet joke 10 years on from my last viewing has achieved something, because I can still vividly remember seeing the
I sit on the toilet, what?
As a 12-year-old, and I guess leading on from there, my one-word review of this film would be memorable. I haven't seen it since I originally saw it in cinemas when it first came out, but I still remembered the basic storyline and a lot of the jokes as well, which means it was clearly very inventive and stands out compared to other movies I'd have seen at the time but couldn't even tell you the title of. And I recently did a video on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs that came out at a similar time, and I addressed this genius inventor trope that was getting a bit oversaturated then. But I kind of love how this movie takes that trope and essentially makes it the complete opposite from what you'd expect. Like, okay, but what if the genius inventor was evil, and then we just throw him in the most unimaginable situations you would ever expect an evil villain to be in? He has to look after these 3 little girls, take them to ballet class, go to the fun fair with them, win them fluffy unicorn toys, have tea parties, read them bedtime stories, to the point where he actually grows to care about them, and it's missing something. I've got it! These minion creatures that speak in gibberish and don't really add anything to the story, but will probably sell lots of toys, and that's how you make one of the most successful animated movies of all time. But seriously, this movie does go against the grain. Like, you've got Gru, who's this intimidating anti-protagonist, and stereotypically, making a villain for this film would be pretty easy. You've just got to make an even more evil and even more intimidating rival character who screwed him over somewhere in the past, so he's got some revenge arc to go through. But Vector is, again, just the opposite of that. He's the weird loser who's actually the son of the boss, and I think he's actually the perfect counterpart. Like, the ending with them taking him down isn't that great. I mean, you know what's gonna happen, and they don't really do anything to completely blow your away in the final section, but all in all, as a movie in its own right, I think it's alright, and it did extremely well at the box office, which can only mean one thing: it's sequel time! Dun dun dun! The year is 2013. Facebook has more than double the amount of active users it did when the first film came out. More than 1 billion using it monthly. No longer is it just a place for teens. Mums and just generally middle-aged women have arrived. Minion Mania is in full flow. Plushies, costumes, watches, birthday cards, phone cases, posters, books, and oh, so many memes. I mean, to say the odds were stacked against this film from being a complete cash grab rushed out to cash in on the Minion hype wouldn't even be the half of it, and somehow it managed to not be that bad. Like, honestly, I think you could make a strong argument that this was better than the first. But then, as you'd expect, the Minions parts massively increased, which I found quite frustrating since it's the relationship between Gru and the girls that carries the first film beyond everything else. And in this, the characters can't seem to even be able to do anything or just have a simple moment between two of them without the Minions being there like an annoying third wheel no one invited. And then, I mean, even the main villain's plan revolves around stealing the Minions, so their little side plots are actually essential to the main crux of the story this time, and there are some pros and cons to this. Pro, they kind of disappear from the story a bit after getting abducted, so it's way less extreme than the later films on the Minion Mania front, but then con, the plan is to turn them into evil purple minions, even more merchandising! And I won't lie, it's a marketing masterstroke. I mean, well, yeah. But that's all it is. Revolving the story around Minions may have sold them lots of toys, but it made the movie feel like one big old advert that was unwilling to get out of its comfort zone. Like, if you haven't seen it, this movie is essentially just a sequel trying to replicate the formula they used in the original and only really managing not to be a complete carbon copy because they have to stick to the character arcs that have already been established. I mean, they both open with Gru, who's convinced his life is fine and doesn't want anything to change, but then gets a glimpse of what it could be like if something was a bit different, and he's happy for a moment. However, while he's distracted being happy, the evil villain steals the thing he's happy about and he has to go take him down and save the day. I mean, even the girls' motivations in this film still revolve around wanting to find a new parent, just this time they're trying to find Gru a wife. And to be clear, I still think this manages to capture a lot of the charm that made the original success. Like, they continue on with the whole, let's put an evil villain into the most absurd situations imaginable, as we get to watch him dress up as a fairy princess, go on dates, and all that stuff. And once again, I was taken aback by how well I remembered this film after not watching it for 8 years. And there were times where I found myself unironically enjoying it and thinking, maybe the world's been hating on these movies too much. This is actually kind of funny.
And my dream is to one day play video games for a living.
Wow.
I don't know if this is some sort of social commentary. I mean, the movie came out in 2013. What was the world even like back then? But it's either really funny or really bad, depending on what the intent behind it was. I think it aged like fine wine, but then they also make a 30-second long fart joke, quickly reminding me that the people who hate this have very good reason to do so. And I'm no hater, but I'm not gonna lie, I want to join them because I still believe to this day that this film is entirely responsible for the unbearable popularity of the song Happy by Pharrell. Like, I really shouldn't have anything against this. It's an upbeat, happy song, probably spreading joy, isn't harming anyone, but you couldn't go anywhere for about a year without hearing that. Like, if you like it, I'm happy for you. So that's the second time I've made that pun, but hearing it again genuinely brought back a side of me that I thought was dead. Like, why couldn't the tortilla chip guacamole hats been the positive thing to come out of this movie into the real world? I don't even know if these are possible to make, but they are good. And I think more than anything, if there's one thing I took from this movie, it's that it just seemed to land at the perfect time. I mean, summer 2013 seems to be the peak we need as much Steve Carell content as we can get era. Like, this came out 6 weeks after The Office finale. And just opportunistically, everything seemed to fit up for this to be a commercial success that people who like the original would also like, but unfortunately, the Despicable Me franchise peaks here. Or, 2 minutes before the end, where Gru and Lucy get married with not one, but 2 songs performed by the Minions in Minionish. And then they make a joke in the end credits about Minion movie auditions. But it's a joke. There's no way they would actually, a Minion movie would be, to this day, the Minion movie is still the 5th highest grossing animated film of all time. Ahead of both Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4. No, I'm not salty about that fact. Because what matters is my own enjoyment of the films, not their box office success. Okay, I think they'll buy that. So, looking at this from a completely unbiased lens, I think this is one of the worst animated movies to be released in the last decade. I mean, it opens with the Minions singing the universal theme song, providing me with the perfect "thanks, I hate it" moment, and that pretty much just sets the tone for the entire movie. Unfunny when it feels like they're trying to be funny. And like, on a serious note, has there ever been a good spin-off or sequel revolving around a comic relief character? Like, ever. And I'm not saying I don't get why they made this movie. There was still, like, milk to milk from the minion cash cow. That analogy made sense. But a movie revolving around these characters that can't speak English was never going to be good. Like, the Englishify the minion language a little bit for this movie, so you can understand some of the things they say. And hey, the narrator makes some self-aware jokes. Shamey sounds like he's in genuine pain having to read the lines. And then, in terms of giving us a backstory to how the Minions came about and eventually found Gru, this is about as uninspiring from a storytelling aspect as a film can get. Apparently the Minions' purpose is to serve the most despicable master. You get it? Because that's they're really trying. So in 1968, a select few minions go on an adventure to find the next most evil villain in the world to serve in 1968 and go to 1968 New York. They don't mention it's 1968 very much, by the way. But how are they going to find the most evil villain in the world, you might be wondering, if you're lucky enough not to have seen the movie. And that would be super easy. They go to an evil villain convention. You know, like Comic-Con for villains. And I don't want to be too critical of this. It does fit up with the world they've built throughout the Despicable Me movies that something like this would exist. But we are stuck watching three characters who are unable to talk to each other in a decipherable way, and we've already been watching this movie for 25 minutes before they even get there. Pain. Like, I guess I've just got to accept this is a full-on kids movie. And I'm sure a lot of people would argue that the other two are as well, but there are still moments in there that made me chuckle, even if internally. But here, I was genuinely sat stone cold. Like, I'm not exaggerating, I don't think I smiled one time throughout this movie. And I know you're probably thinking, okay, Seamus, we get it, but you're not the target demographic. Maybe you're being a little bit too hard. But no, I'm sorry, they made it personal for me, because they traveled to London and spend the majority of the movie in my hometown. Like, I'm just tired of Hollywood making it so my least favorite movie in every franchise seems to take place in London. I mean, Cars 2, For the Dark World, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince has that scene where they attack the Millennium Bridge in 1996. It doesn't even make sense, and it just... I'm still not over it. Like, as if I hadn't already been through enough, you decide to make an entire Minions prequel where your go-to joke is making fun of British people. And I get it, you're a kid's film. I need to stop taking it so personally. But I was taught when I was 10 that a joke is only funny when all parties involved in the joke find it funny. And as a viewer of the film, I consider myself a party involved in the joke, and I don't find it funny. So from a factual standpoint, this movie isn't funny. Stop making fun of Her Royal Majesty the Queen! Okay, I'm joking. I'm not actually a nationalist. Throw Andrew in jail, please. But I'm genuinely curious. How are they allowed to use the Queen's image and portray her like this in a movie without consent, surely? Like, could she sue them if she wanted? Because it doesn't feel legal. I mean, they do write, the characters and events depicted in this photo play are fictitious, and similarity to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental at the end. But I mean, surely, is that how it works? Like, can I just... Hey brother, I'm Jay, and I'm Ben, and we just wanted to say that everything is not, in fact, a part of a Pixar theory. What's up, muggles? How's it going? And I just want to say that Snape is an evil character, and we all hate him here at Bakey House. Hi everybody, it's me, Scott Nicewander from the Nerd Sync channel, and I just want to say that Scooby-Doo isn't even that good. Like, it's kind of good, it's not that good. And also, I love capitalism. Hi guys, it's me, Inabber, and I just want to say that Kenji is the worst dog in human... No, actually, I'm gonna break character for a second. That influencer dog that has more followers than me on Instagram is so annoying to me. Like, every time I meet it, just can't leave me alone. Leave me alone. Hi everyone, it's me, Vega, and I'm about to shave my head, but then I thought, what if I do a video where I don't change my hair in some way? Sorry, it's getting too unrealistic. Anyway, sorry for another unnecessary detour there, and to be honest, I feel like you probably get the picture. More than anything, I just found this movie frustrating to watch, because every plot device seems to come out of nowhere due to characters being unable to think rationally, and it just isn't very fun to watch. I mean, one of the minions becomes the king because he pulls the sword out of the stone, and that annoys the villain lady they serve now because she wanted to be queen. So they change the laws to make her queen, and she still backstabs them. and shock, leading to the classic need to stop the main villain from getting crowned and the chandelier goes flying. And then also Kevin accidentally makes himself a giant minion, and then the film ends with Gru showing up in London for some reason to be their new master. To be honest, this is one of those instances where just reading out the plot says more than I ever could. And as I've already said, they're making a sequel to this film called The Rise of Gru. And honestly, I'm being dead serious. When I first saw this film getting announced, I thought it was just a joke on Twitter parodying the Rise of Skywalker's title. But no, this is a real movie. And fortunately for me, it's coming out next year, so I don't have to talk about it today. But there is still a third and what I'd like to say final Despicable Me movie, but it's only the final one for this specific video. They're making a fourth one as we speak. So yay, let's talk about another movie in this never-ending franchise. Now, this was the first one I didn't actually see when it came out, which means it took a Minions spin-off for me to finally give up my investment in this franchise. Probably longer than most, and after seeing Despicable Me 3 for the first time, I've just got to say, it's one of the most unoriginal and uninventive movies I've ever seen. Where to even start? It has one of the most uninteresting villains paired up with one of the least compelling backstories ever. Introduced from the beginning, Evil Brat was apparently on a hit TV show as a child actor, and like a lot of child actors do, struggled to get work later in life, so unlike a lot of child actors, he became the Evil Brat character from the TV show. That's actually his backstory. Like, they've given up even pretending they're trying at this point. And then you have Gru, who is now a full-time crime fighter, which I guess is fine. I mean, it fits up with his character arc from the last film, but it begs the question, has it drifted so far from where it began that it's kind of lost track of what made it good in the first place? Like, remember how Despicable Me was full of actually imaginative and unconventional storytelling? By the third one, they just followed the most basic of basic. The main character's boss retires and new mean boss takes his place and fires said main character. Wow, what an original movie concept. Color me impressed. What next? Gru discovers he has a long lost twin brother to finally complete the family checklist he's been going through throughout these movies? Yeah, that's actually what happened. Gru has a twin brother with hair. Are you even trying? No, they're not. But the only thing this movie has going for it is continuity. Like, the characters are still the same characters we meet in the earlier movies, even if that requires a bit of a retcon because of a prequel movie that came in between this and Despicable Me 2. You see, because we know the Minions' purpose is to serve someone despicable and Gru stopped being villainous after the first film, but they hadn't made that retcon yet when making the second one, the Minions should, for continuity's sake, be lacking purpose around now, since that's what happens when they don't have a master. So naturally, they leave Gru to look for a new villainous master and get their entire own storyline completely unrelated to the plot. That I will tell you does not damage or impact the pacing of the movie that was already a mess because they keep cutting away to characters that aren't doing anything already. And definitely doesn't feel like they didn't know what to do with the Minions, but desperately wanted to give them something to do, so just gave them any story, like seriously anything. And ironically, I'm sat here a week after watching it, and I can't even really remember what happened. Like, the villain covers the city in bubblegum, I think, but then there was no one in the city either. It was just Gru and his family out saving the streets. No casualties, just gotta protect those buildings. Gru and his brother also steal a diamond at some point. There's like a Rubik's Cube tower, and it was all way too easy. They have no real issues stealing the diamond, but then it gets stolen back. Like, there's a diamond that gets stolen a lot. And then in the meantime, Lucy and the girls are just kind of chilling. Like, they don't really get up to anything eventful until the end. I mean, I'm really scraping the barrel to find a positive here, but throughout the movies, I've been questioning, what's the point of the middle girl? Like, Agnes is clearly the main one. She's the youngest, very quirky, and seemingly has the strongest bond with Gru, I'd say. Then Margot's character's a bit older, has a little bit more depth to her. You can tell in the first film, she's the only one who can still remember their birth parents, which is why it takes longer for her to come to like and trust Gru. And in the later films, she starts to pursue love interests, so we get to see Gru's reactions and fatherly displeasures towards that. But the middle one, she's a little violent, I guess, and that's kind of all they give us. Like, genuinely, I would not remember her name if I hadn't just seen the films. It's Edith, by the way. You didn't know that, though. You didn't know that. However, in this one, she's actually given a part as she keeps playing pranks on Gru's brother's butler, and I don't know, I thought that worked, but unfortunately, the rest of the movie didn't work, for me at least. I mean, I can't even remember how it ended, but on the positive, it was better than Minions. Pretty low bar, though. And to conclude this video, I usually like to end on a positive note, but with this franchise, it's just been spiraling downhill ever since the Minions hit Facebook, and I have no faith it's gonna get any better from here. I mean, I watched the Minions 2 Rise of Gru trailer, and sincerely, I had more optimism and higher expectations for the Emoji Movie after the trailer than I do for this. And I don't want to criticize something I haven't seen, so maybe I'll do a video on Minions 2 The Rise of Gru when it comes out, but you're gonna have to get this video to like 100,000 likes for me to even consider that Because I don't want to watch that film, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. And, you know, if I like it, I will do a full YouTube apology video about it. Like, I'll turn the camera on, I'll do I might even cry. I will do all the stops, but yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. So, I guess that's all I've got time for. Special thank you to Kayla Chase, Christina Franzi, Jacob, Natalie, Natasha, Nick, Amanda Aneshka, Jaden, Jordan, Olivia, Rachel, Jonathan, Ben, Victoria, Veronica, and Will for supporting me on Patreon. If you also want to check out the awards I've got available over on Patreon, make sure to check it out, link in the description down below. And yeah, I guess that marks the end of another video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, but not too many. I don't want it to get 100,000 likes, and also, I should have put a time limit on that. What if it gets like 100,000 likes in 50 years' time and everyone's like, oh my god, you got to do a video on Minions 2 now. They've made 10 Minions movies since you said that. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, watch another video, and check out the Patreon I've just mentioned in the description down below. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Or not. I don't know if you're actually going to be here for my next video. I might not.